prior to coming to Exeter, I'd spent a lot of years looking at dietary protein, how humans metabolize that, and what that means to dietary recommendations across different populations and across the lifespan. So we actually had very little information on alternative protein sources. This for me was a natural collaboration with industry, because you had a lot of industry that wanted to produce and commercialize alternative protein sources. This for me was a natural collaboration with industry, because you had a lot of industry that wanted to produce and commercialize alternative protein sources. So it allowed me to explore those different potential commercial partners by explaining that I believe we had good protein recommendations in terms of the amount we should consume in different populations, but we had less information from experiments utilizing alternative proteins that had not been obtained from animals. One of the more important partners that led me into collaboration with was Quorn Foods, who shared that same view, which was they wanted to be part of the solution for people wanting to consume less meat, less dairy, because of course they would prefer people to buy their products, which is an alternative protein made from the fermentation of fungi. So that allowed a shared interest and allowed us to start looking at some of the important questions that I believed existed in terms of how do we metabolize proteins that weren't derived from fat, that weren't derived from animals, my apologies. And of course, that also allowed them to start obtaining more advanced experimental data on how humans metabolize their proteins. You have to understand what the industry partner are after. If they want a claim, if they want you to show something very specific, it's a very different kind of collaboration. That's not really a collaboration, that's a kind of service agreement. I don't believe that academics are really in the business of service agreements. I think they're far more in the business of looking for new data that's useful and impactful. So you can really get to the bottom of that with an initial discussion with a partner when they immediately can get red flags, which is we would like to show A causes B, and therefore we want you to do this work to show that. For me, that's a no-no. However, if you have a shared philosophy with that same individual where they talk about, we want to know more about this, we think it's important, what questions would you ask? That's when you know you've got a better relationship, because the industry partner is recognizing that the primary advantage of collaborating with academia is that the academic should be the expert in that field. They should have the experimental expertise to be able to perform the right experiments, but importantly, they should ask the right questions, rather than it being all the questions coming from the industry partner. On the other side of that, I'd say that there are hard things that should be built into contracts. I think it's general practice at the University of Exeter that this is done, but it's nevertheless something that is worth, again, discussing upfront with any industry partner. And the real kind of deal breaker on that from my perspective is that you always retain publication rights at the university. The intellectual property remains the university's, and the academic is the representative of the university that decides A, how the study is designed, B, when and how the study is published. That's notwithstanding requests from industry partners for embargoes over data. I don't find anything too unreasonable about that. Industry partners I've collaborated with have suggested that depending on how data goes from studies, they may need 3 to 6 months warning of our intention to publish, so that they can look at any kind of mitigation that they might have to do for those results coming out. But ultimately, again, a transparency up front from the academic partner should be that we will publish these data, whatever we find.